Have you ever poured your heart into a painting believing this is your best work, only for it to be completely rejected? This happened to me. I entered what I thought was my magnum opus into the most prestigious portrait competition in the world, thinking like, oh my God, this is gonna win. It did not even get an honorable mention. But 4 years later, I won the Oil Painters of America gold medal with the exact same composition. But that early rejection almost stopped me from entering competitions altogether. And now that I've been a juror for a major competition, I wish I could just build a time machine and give my younger self some support. So to make getting into jury competitions 10 times easier for you, here are the 7 things I wish I knew about what pieces get awards that would have saved me a ton of time and heartache. And I'm gonna start with the epiphany that completely demystified for me how to tell whether a painting is good enough to get into a show. I used to have no idea if I had made a piece that a judge would actually like, or if I was just so desperate to get in that I was bordering on delusional. So I'm gonna make this super easy to decode. Imagine you're the juror. You are volunteering your time, you've got your own deadlines, and now you're staring at 1,000 entries and you've been asked to narrow it down to your top 20. So you start looking through all of them, but by the time you're at painting number like 847, there is no way you can remember what painting number 12 looked like. And that's gonna make it really hard to trust that you're being fair to every entry if you can't even remember them all. So what do? You zoom out and you scan the thumbnails all at once, because that is the fastest, fairest way to separate the standouts without missing anything. You make a quick shortlist, and only then do you zoom in and spend time on the details to confirm your choices. Here's the truth. If your painting doesn't read in thumbnail, it usually won't survive the first cut in a competition. So you might wonder, okay, fair enough, but how the heck do I know what a judge is actually looking for? Here's the good news. You already know how to do this, and I'm gonna prove it to you. Okay, 2 thumbnails. Don't overthink it. Which one would you click on if you were tired and you still had 800 more of these to go? The one on the right? And notice, you didn't need a checklist. Your eye picked up on the big stuff intuitively, even if you didn't consciously label what makes this piece stronger. So before you submit, do this. Shrink your image down to postage stamp size. Put it next to, 5 to 10 of past award winners from that same competition, and also shrink those down. And ask, does mine still look lifelike and like it was made with care from this far away? Basically, how does it compare to the past winners? That's how you know if a painting has a good chance of getting juried in. But what if you submit a painting you genuinely think should crush it and it gets nothing? Most artists feel so defeated here that they give up. But when you avoid this next mistake, you will wildly improve your chances of getting in and tremendously improve your skills at the same time. Let me explain. So imagine you're judging a major competition and you see an entry that looks familiar. You recognize the model, the outfit, the lighting setup, because you've seen it from dozens of other painters who must have been taking the same class with the same instructor. Or worse, what if it matches a popular photo that's been floating around on Pinterest for years? Now, as the juror, you've got a problem. Even if a piece you love is beautifully painted, do you know who actually authored the image or who legally owns the copyright to the composition? That's why big competitions are cracking down on the references you're painting from. That no compositions from a workshop or a group model session, that there are no AI-generated reference images, and no photographs you didn't personally take. Because even if the painting is yours, the composition might not be. So play it safe. For competition pieces, use references you can prove that you authored, 100%. Your own photo shoot, your own lighting, your own model release if needed. And always read the prospectus line by line before you paint. The last thing you want is to get an award that has to be later revoked in a public and embarrassing way because the juror realized that you didn't follow the rules. Now, not every competition has the same rules, but the top tier ones are getting stricter. And the stricter the competition, the more they care about authorship, because it's not just your reputation on the line, it's the competition's reputation too. Okay, so that's a lot, and I get that it'd be easy to just say, why bother? But I'm gonna tell you exactly why. A lot of painters don't enter because they assume they'll never win. But competitions don't stay the same every year. Some years are absolutely stacked, and some years are surprisingly light. People get busy, they miss deadlines, or talk themselves out of entering. And if you skip the 1 year that the pool shifts in your favor, you're never gonna know if it could have been your year because you didn't give them the chance to say yes. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard jurors say, I wish so-and-so had entered this year. So if you're genuinely proud of a painting, enter. You don't need to deserve to win to submit. You just need to be in the running. And honestly, sometimes the juror's taste is a perfect match for what you do. Either way, let the juror reject you, don't reject yourself for them. Now, there is one catch. You don't want to enter everything. So how do you know what shows are worth it? So let's take an example, hypothetical, Bob and Susan. Bob gets an email from a gallery he's never heard of saying, congratulations, we'd love to include your work in our upcoming exhibition. There's just a small fee to exhibit. Bob thinks, this could be my break, so he does it. But suddenly there are also fees for the catalog and the award certificate and the shipping. His painting hangs in the show, but there's no promotion and his painting doesn't sell. Well, the gallery made their money from the artists, not the buyers. Now, Susan does the opposite. She keeps a short list of shows run by organizations she already recognizes and admires. She reads the prospectus, she checks past winners, she knows exactly what an award would do for her. Maybe it's credibility, maybe a price increase that she knows that she could sustain, or exposure to collectors who really buy. So who would you rather be? Susan, right? So here's the rule. Avoid pay-to-play exhibitions. If the gallery makes their revenue by just renting wall space to artists or endless participation fees, that's not a career move. That is a business model run on your hope, and I don't want that for you. So before you pay an entry fee, ask who is hosting it. Have I heard of them? For the right reasons. Do they have real collectors and real sales history? Do they showcase past winners with names you can verify? And is the money coming from collectors or is it coming from you? All right, so let's say you're on board, you pick the right competition, you're excited to enter, but every time you enter, it never feels like your best work. If you're always rushing competitions, you end up entering work that you're not proud of, or you might just miss the deadline entirely. I'll be honest, I've given myself like 4 days to paint a masterpiece for a competition more times than I would care to admit. It'll be 11:57 on the night of the deadline, and I will still have corrections I want to make, but I'm panicking about just getting a good photo and hitting submit before midnight. And I did it again twice with this painting. Once because I was hoping for an OPA deadline and I missed it, and again when it actually won in Portrait Society. I guess I thrive on adrenaline or something, but let me tell you, the burnout it caused was so unnecessary. So here's the pro move. By the time entries open, you shouldn't be painting. You should be selecting, photographing, and submitting. In a perfect world, you put the competition on your calendar like a year in advance. You use last year's perspective as your guide because the rules usually don't change much. And then you spend the year building a small group of paintings that already fit the rules, and you can choose the best from that group. But if you have to create something closer to the deadline, Work backward from it so you aren't like me painting till midnight the night it's due. For me, this would probably look like, 4 to 6 weeks out, the composition and the reference is locked. 2 weeks out, the painting is pretty much finished. 7 days out, I have all the final touches done. And 48 hours out, I have the photography done and the submission done. Because if you're watching this video at your level, you're probably not losing because you can't paint. It's just that you weren't set up to present your best work. Okay, let's say you're on board with everything I've shared, so you enter and then nothing. Does that mean my art just sucks? Or even worse, that everyone actually knows that I'm just an imposter and turns out they hate me and my art? Or is that just what happens to me? So what if, say, like Bouguereau and John Singer Sargent both entered the same competition? Do you really believe that one of these two painters would win with every juror in every competition? And when one inevitably does win and the other doesn't, does that make the other's work less valuable? No, of course not, right? It just means judging is a matter of taste and context. When this painting of mine got rejected, I was super discouraged, but it also lit a fire under me. It made me want to paint that same reference again 4 years later, this time with way more experience. And that new painting won me the OPA Gold, which is a lifetime achievement. And it wouldn't have happened without that initial rejection. And here's something most painters don't realize. A painting could be one juror's absolute favorite and still get nothing. Juried shows are often panel decisions. Sometimes one juror will actually say, I love this painting. I really hope this artist submits again. But it still doesn't place because the rest of the panel voted differently. Other times, everyone loves a painting, but one small flaw has an outsized consequence, like an incredibly painted face, but maybe an anatomy error in the hand, or a perspective error in the background. So if a painting of yours has gotten rejected, there's a good chance it falls into one of these buckets. One is a small inconsistency that made it hard to award. 2, it's strong, but it wasn't a match for the juror's taste. So maybe you painted a fantastic expressionistic piece, but the juror's heart belongs to classical realism. Or this juror is known for florals, and that's not what you painted. Or they're a horse person, and that means they're extra sensitive to tiny anatomy issues with horses, even if your painting is fabulous overall. Or 3, there was a rule you didn't notice, like something I might have mentioned before regarding submitting a piece painting from a classroom, or maybe it was the wrong size. So let rejection sting for a day, but don't turn it into a story about your worth. Instead, embrace rejection as a valuable part of the process and enter again. And if you do win, all right, well, this brings me to the last mistake, which is a trap I don't think I've heard anyone talk about. What if you win, but it actually makes things worse? Let me explain. I was watching a documentary about 2 competitive ballroom dancers, and they had been number 2 in the world forever. And their coach said something that just really struck me. He said, if you should be so lucky to win one day, win with what you really stand for, not what other people want to see. That's the game with juried art shows too. If you do win, you want it to be with the kind of painting that you would be proud to have synonymous with your name for a long time, not the one you entered because you thought it was just good enough. Because if you win, you want the win to feel like proof that people love what you have to share with the world, not because you're a sellout. If this was helpful and you want to go deeper on creating that kind of painting, the pro quality original oil painting that's award worthy, watch this video next.